Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews That Don't Matter with Jessica Hitt. My name is Jessica Hitt. On today's episode, we are talking about the one and only Get Out that I have finally seen. And, I guess we'll just get into it. Get Out came out about a year ago now, February, and it is a movie that I had never planned to see because as soon as any movie kind of gets booked under like horror, genre, thriller, scary type, I kind of just write it off. It's not my thing. I don't get interested in that kind of stuff. And to be honest, the trailers didn't really do it for me. And then of course I saw It later on, and that kind of really did change my perspective on the horror genre or the thriller genre a little bit more. And then, of course, it got nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor. And, you just kind of have to bite the dust sometimes and watch it. And also, when this came out, obviously I never thought I'd ever really want to watch this movie. So I read a whole thing, a review about it with spoilers and everything. So I knew going into this film what it was. So I do kind of regret that in the sense that I wasn't surprised. Like going to the theater, you're kind of in this and you realize what it is and you're just like, holy crap. There were a decent amount of stuff that I did not know about this movie, which I was pretty happy with. But I was worried going into it thinking that maybe because this is such a hyped up movie, this is a movie that everyone out there is always like, it's so good, you gotta see it, blah, blah, blah. And it's just and it's been a year of hype since this came out. I have not gone a month without hearing something about Get Out. So, I really thought I was gonna go into this and not like it just because of how hyped it is, especially because that's how I felt with Shape of Water, and I always get a little worried about that. And sometimes my favorite movies are the ones that I go in thinking are just gonna be terrible, which we'll get to later this week. So I finally bit the bullet, I turned on Get Out, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I was hooked from the very beginning. Actually, it's kind of funny, because when the Blumhouse sort of screen came on, it kind of looks like a video game. I thought that was the start of the movie, and I was like, oh, this is weird. And then it goes into the start of the movie, and I was like, oh, okay, that was just the Blumhouse thing. Okay? And it's interesting because the way I'm watching this is almost like a second viewing. I'm trying to spot these little moments that are clues to how the movie ends since I know how the movie ends. And it's so weird because by the way, this review is going to have spoilers in it. This has been out for a year, so it's your own damn fault if you haven't seen it. I knew going into this film that Allison Williams was gonna be a bad character, but I couldn't help but want to root for her and want her to be a good white person in this, even though I knew she wasn't, until she fully switched it. And there's that scene where she's on the phone and she's talking to Chris's friend, the TSA agent, because he's trying to find him, and she finally picks up his phone, and she's doing that thing where she's she's sounding like she's really distressed and stuff, and it's just watching Allison Williams with the straight face but doing that really terrified voice was really compelling. And I'm like, she's a psychopath. Oh my gosh. In fact, the whole family is just freaking insane. And I just cannot help but feel so sad for all of these poor people that just got stuck with other people's brains inside them. Okay, I'm moving a little too fast here. But I want to talk about Daniel Kaluuya really quick. He was somebody I wasn't skeptical going into, but I was going to be really critical going into this because he was nominated for Best Actor. And I was like, okay, is this because the movie was hype or because his performance was good enough? And so I'm watching the movie, and the first parts of it, I'm like, this seems pretty standard acting. Nothing's really going on. And then the first time he gets hypnotized by Rose's mom, and he goes into the sunken place, and it's just his face and his eyes are open and he's crying. I was like, okay, I totally get it. I could not imagine that. And then as it goes on, it just gets ramped up and ramped up and ramped up. And there's he's just trying to keep his cool because he's still in love with Rose, and he doesn't realize that she's kind of in on all this. And obviously you have the crazy brother that's just full psychopath. But I mean, can you really blame them? They were completely indoctrinated and totally freaking messed up as kids because their parents did this to them. And so now they're the complete... I mean, they trained their kids to go and hunt black people so that way they can take them. insane. That is absolutely insane. And I kind of like how they both have very different ways. Like the crazy son like just goes and abducts them with like a weird like knight's mask on him. And then Rose goes out and seduces a whole bunch of people. And it's just like, first of all, I don't know if the commentary on that is that cops are not doing their job enough to realize that she's dating all of these people that are going missing, or if it's commentary on the fact that cops don't necessarily try as hard when it's a black person missing, and they might write it off a lot quicker. And like speaking on the social commentary that this movie's taking on is like, it's so. I mean, as a white person, I obviously do not experience all these things. So to see it so clearly represented on screen on how black people, African Americans all feel, it's like really disheartening. And like there was this last couple episodes of Grey's Anatomy where there's a scene at the end where Dr. Bailey and her husband, who are both black, are sitting down their son, who of course is an African American, and they are explaining how to properly act in front of cops so he doesn't get shot. And like watching that scene is like so powerful and like so like I cannot believe that this has to be said. And then this movie, I see this and I'm just like, God, it just like, it's so frustrating that a whole bunch of Americans feel this way, and it's justified. Like they have reasons to feel this way. This isn't a fake thing where they're trying to make everybody pity them in a way. Like this stuff happens, and it's like really so disheartening. You see it from the moment when Chris is asking Rose if she told her parents he was black, or when they get pulled over and the cop is asking for his ID even though he wasn't driving, or like just like little things when they get there. And obviously they ramp up the racism with the whole slavery auction thing that they did, where he's like being shown around like a show horse, and like they're like feeling his biceps and like talking to him about all this stuff. And it's just like the moment you realize what exactly is happening, you're just like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. And that's the great thing about this movie, is that every step of the way, it makes you feel uncomfortable in some way. Like, it made my skin crawl at times. Like, some of the beats were really strange and off-putting. It's like in music, when you're not doing the downbeat, you're doing the upbeat, and it just feels a little wrong. That's what this whole movie was. It was like an upbeat in music, and it was so fascinating to be so uncomfortable during the entire thing. And like the music, the breathing sometimes felt so off, and it was just like, it was mesmerizing in a way. And obviously you credit all of that to Jordan Peele, which this is his first movie, is absolutely insane that he wrote and directed this so masterfully and so under the radar. The fact that really they put this out in February, they weren't expecting anything. I think it was made for several $1 million, and it's the most profitable movie of the year of 2017, I believe. And they re-released it in theaters in January to get more of an Oscars push, and it's still doing well in the theaters. It's insane. And know what really, really ticks me off is now that I've seen Lady Bird and Get Out, two first-time single directors, and the fact that it took them to the Academy Awards to be nominated for Best Director, it wasn't the Golden Globes, any of those things. They weren't nominated until the Oscars, and there is no reason for that. Zero reason. The fact that they could write and direct such great films that are considered indies that actually really took hold of the commercial market, it's insane that it took them that long to get nominated. And then all of these, like the Directors Guild Award and all of these people are just like, well, who would I take out of the Best Directors race to put these two in? Literally any of them. Personally, out of all the movies I've seen, those are the two best directed, because I don't think those two movies would be the same movies without them. Besides, of course, Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water, I don't think that movie would ever be touched without Guillermo. So I think that he's a very well-deserved. And obviously Paul Thomas Anderson, but there are a couple of interchangeable directors that you could like put in there and take them out and put in Jordan Peele or Greta Gerwig. And I'm so glad that the Academy has decided to nominate them and recognize them on their first movies. Like, that's huge that they did that. So one thing I will say about Get Out is I don't think I'll be clamoring to watch this so soon again. Like, I want to more marinate on it and maybe watch it eventually. But it does make me excited for future Jordan Peele films. Like every time he comes out with something, I will be invested in it enough to go see it, I believe. And he said that he's got a whole like series of socially conscious thriller movies to put out there, and I think that's fascinating. It's a genre that could really use a little bit of some help, in my opinion. Like this was kind of the year for horror films, starting off with Split, you have Get Out, you have a couple of other things. You have obviously It, which made $1 billion. And so this was kind of a big revival because I feel like horror films tend to be such a joke. Like you get the 14th Saw movie. I mean, you have a couple, like The Conjuring is apparently very good. I haven't seen it. But for the most part, not great. Look at The Bye Bye Man. So I feel like Jordan Peele kind of like inseminating a bit of social commentary in these horror films are really gonna like crank up the horror genre a notch and could really start garnering more attention. And I feel like now that Get Out has been recognized, if he makes another one and it's as successful and as good, then I think that it's gonna be much easier to start breaking that sort of barrier for awards where genre films don't typically belong in. So overall, I really love this movie. I'm glad that it didn't disappoint me and it wasn't like overhyped. I think I've only really heard from one person that, they just thought it was an okay film. Everybody else like really, really loves it. So I'm really in that boat. Very excited to see what Jordan Peele does. More from Daniel Kaluuya. I think he's awesome. I do think that Allison Williams deserved a Best Supporting Actress nom. I really, really did. I thought that she was actually like the most terrifying out of all of them. Because you wanted to root for her and you couldn't. It was just like, oh, I want you to turn out to be good so bad, and then she turns out to be probably the most psychotic. So yeah, hope you guys liked this review. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what are your thoughts on Get Out. Also, don't forget to subscribe. I make videos Monday through Friday. I'm doing a lot of Oscar stuff from this year as well as last year because almost all of those movies are on streaming services, and I'm gonna pepper in a couple stuff that's a little not recognized in the Oscar circle that I think maybe should be. So stick on for that. I'm very excited. So bye.